The 2025 Dutch Grand Prix just took place. Let's go through how each of the teams and driver have performed, starting from the worst performers of the weekend, ending with the highest scorers of the main race, team by team. We will start with Ferrari. Now, if you look at it objectively, it looks bad. Started 6th and 7th, decent, obviously not where you want to be. Being Ferrari, you should be out there competing for championships and stuff like that. But you know what? A solid 6 and 7 is fine. Like this year has gone to shit already. There is no hope. The best you can do is just decently continue to score points consistently. That's the best you can do. And both of them DNF'd and ended up, the weekend finished with 0 points on the board. We will go through the races of Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc in a minute, one by one in detail. I got a lot to say about this. But first, I need to talk about the emotional aspect, because people might think that this is a bad thing. I am saying that it's not that bad of a thing. Because in Monza, which is basically Ferrari's home race, like literally Ferrari's home race, you need good luck for that, because their car is clearly shit. And in order to have good luck in Monza, you need to have bad luck elsewhere, and this is as bad as it gets. So in a way, if you look at it from like the Ferrari cycle perspective, things going absolutely horribly in Zandvoort might be a good thing for Ferrari in the long run. Next race weekend is Monza. Don't quote me on it, but just keep an eye out. Right, that's the first thing. Now let's talk about the races of both of the drivers. First, let's talk a little bit about Lewis Hamilton, because he was done for the day quickly. And the thing is, so basically he was stuck behind George Russell, trying to overtake him, couldn't really put much of a pressure. He wasn't even consistently inside his DRS. He was in George's DRS for a few laps, then he dropped out of it. He was just outside of the DRS for the majority of the time. He was behind George Russell, which I think is entirety of his race. So he was not making that much of an impact, like pace-wise. I don't think he has that much of a pace advantage, if at all. Maybe half a second, 5/10, something like that. And that is not enough to overtake around Zandvoort. So that was that. And then he goes to the radio, talks to Ricky, and says that we need to undercut these guys. These guys being George Russell. And he just loses it, because like when that conversation happened, Ferrari immediately called Charles Leclerc in for new tires. He was the leading Ferrari. And in that like interim lap, Lewis Hamilton lost it in turn 3 and crashed it into the barriers, destroyed the fucking car. And the way he crashed, like that's the thing I want all of you guys to remember, is that he lost the rear a little bit, and which fucked up his steering, like the direction of the car. The car was pointed wrong, like as a result of that, and he couldn't correct it in time. Went straight into the barriers. His race was done at that point. And this is the thing that you guys need to keep an eye on, is that he is starting to lose the rear, the control over the rear tires, the rear stability. Since Belgium, where Ferrari fitted the new suspension component and he spun out in the sprint qualifying session, and like he had kind of had that similar issues afterwards. Even in Zandvoort, the first 2 practice sessions of the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix, Lewis Hamilton lost the rear. One of it was like, I think he went a little bit off track, but he lost the rear and spun out. And this is a thing that happens with dying Ferrari drivers, or drivers that went to Ferrari to die. You have seen this with Sebastian Vettel as well. You start to lose the rear once, and it just continually happens over and over again, and it just takes away all of your confidence from the car. Because you start to lose the rear, you become afraid to put the power down, and it fucks up everything. Your launch at the start, your exits out of the corners, everything. So that's the thing with Lewis Hamilton's situation. He went into the weekend feeling happy about himself, thinking that, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and enjoy racing. Not with Ferrari, my friend. Not with Ferrari. So that was Lewis Hamilton's situation. Now let's talk a little bit about Charles Leclerc. I have to take a sip of this. So Charles Leclerc, he actually had good pace. He was much more faster than Lewis Hamilton, and he cleared George Russell, and then he was on the hunt for Isaac Hadjar. And props to Isaac Hadjar. We will talk about him when we will talk about him, but Charles Leclerc couldn't make much of an impression on him, even though he was consistently in the DRS range. Lewis Hamilton failed to achieve that with George Russell. Anyway, we're not going to talk about him right now. Charles Leclerc, right? Doing great, putting the pressure on Isaac Hadjar, had the faster car, was extracting decent amount of pace. Behind him was Kimi Antonelli, trying to put some pressure on. Then Kimi Antonelli goes to pits, right? Because at this time, George Russell's car is damaged. Kimi Antonelli is kind of like charging through the field. He has found some pace. He is blitzing. And it seems that he is not able to make that much of an impact on Charles Leclerc. So he goes to the pits, 20 laps remaining, puts on a new set. I don't know if it was new or old, but a set of soft tires. Comes out, 20 laps remaining, and his goal is to overtake 2 to 3 cars, one of which is George Russell, and he will just make way for his team because George Russell at this point in the race had a damaged car. So he will just get the fuck out of his way. The other guy is Alexander Albon. It's easy to clear the Williams, which was on worn tires. So he just took that gamble. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get a pair of softs to attack Charles Leclerc towards the end of the race. And that's where Ferrari decided to do the same in order to cover for Kimi Antonelli. They decided to pit Charles Leclerc so that Kimi Antonelli cannot catch him. And the pit stop went great, but the moment Leclerc came out of the pits and onto the track, shit went crazy. So Kimi Antonelli comes in, he throws it down the inside, absolutely 100% his fault, clips Charles Leclerc, Charles loses control, crashed into the barriers, game over. In that situation, Leclerc goes on the radio and he says that was unnecessary. In the moment we thought Charles Leclerc was talking about the maneuver of Kimi Antonelli, but in reality he was talking about Ferrari's pit stop strategy. So Ferrari screwed one driver through strategy, classic Ferrari move, and another driver just, he is dying, right? Lewis Hamilton is in his twilight years, unfortunately. So great job by Ferrari as usual, and great job of eliminating the bad luck. And that is that. Hopefully the bad luck will not be here in Monza. We move on. Up next, we have Sauber. These guys just got caught out. That's literally it. So Gabriel Bortoleto had good qualifying and he had good pace. If he just didn't make any mistakes, I think he would have finished in points. So he kind of fucked up. That's on him. At the start, he kind of dropped 6 places before turn 1. So before turn 1, he was P19. The only car behind him was Lance Stroll, I think, or something like that. So completely fault of Gabriel Bortoleto, did himself 0 favors after Saturday. He is good on Saturday, and P13 is a good qualifying position. And with people DNFing, 2 Ferraris and Lando Norris DNFing, and Kimi Antonelli getting that massive penalty, if Gabriel Bortoleto just hung out at P13, he would have definitely gotten in some points. But he fucked up at the race start, and that's on him. Now, speaking of Nico Hülkenberg, he needs to step up his game in P17, because when you start that back, even if you have a good start, you clear some cars or whatever, and, you try to manage or time the safety car right or whatever it is, you can only gain so much of an advantage unless the race goes crazy. Because, okay, in Zandvoort, a lot of incidents happen, but it didn't kind of made the race go crazy, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, it made us pay more attention because things were happening, incidents were happening, investigations were going on, radio messages were being exchanged. But in reality, it's not like that of a crazy race. Like both of the McLarens would have finished 1-2 with Max Verstappen P3 if Lando's engine didn't blow up. These guys started outside the points, finished outside the points. So in a way, it's nothing big, right? But Nico Hülkenberg kind of screwed himself by, starting so badly. And when you start that behind, even if it's a good start and you time one of the pit stops right, there's only so much ahead you can go. And I think he got screwed over in one of the other pit stops. And then Gabriel Bortoleto also had a collision with someone with his front wing was hanging out. I don't know who it was. I'm forgetting it right now. So Basically, it's just a scruffy race weekend for these guys, and there's nothing much to say about it. So we move on. Alpine. I am really happy that Franco Colapinto is back. We saw glimpses of it in Belgium, where he defended against Kimi Antonelli for a couple of laps. We saw that in Hungaroring. We saw that in Canada. But he has been building himself back up slowly. So great job by Franco Colapinto for qualifying decent and also finishing very well. I thought that he would have gotten into the points, but unfortunately, and this is something that Gabriel Bortoleto needs to know, because Franco almost got into the points by just not fucking it up and making any mistakes. He was not particularly massively benefited by timing the pit stops right or whatever it is. Maybe he did. I need to go ahead and check the data. But he was not massively benefited by it. And his car is shit. And he made up 5 positions. So great job by Franco Colapinto. And towards the end, he had more pace than Pierre Gasly. He made a sweet overtake on Pierre Gasly into turn 1. I mean, obviously, he was on the soft tires and Gasly was on the mediums. So that is that. But still, you got to give him props. Franco Colapinto, welcome back. Excited to see what this guy can do in the upcoming races. He's certainly finding some pace. I don't think it's going to be much better for him on Monza because it's a power circuit. But I guess we will see in qualifying and his pace relative to Pierre Gasly. Now, speaking of Pierre Gasly, again, there's nothing much to say. Started P14, finished P17, got screwed up around the pit stops, and, he was just on the wrong strategy and in the wrong part of the race at the wrong time. And, these are the things that happen. There's nothing much analysis you can do about the guys in these type of positions with shit cars underneath them. There's only so much these guys can do. Because they're limited by the machinery, and in Zandvoort it's difficult to overtake. It's a narrow circuit. There's only one overtaking zone, and DRS trains everywhere. So it is what it is. So we move on. Haas. So first, I want to go ahead and give some props to Esteban Ocon. P18 to P10, pretty good. That was difficult for me to say, but you have to give credit where credit is deserved. Not as good as his teammate, who is a rookie, by the way. But still, P18 to P10, great job. Not as good as Oliver Behrman's pit lane to P6. But anyway, I don't want to, be much of a dig, but let's go ahead and analyze their performance. So what happened is they had good pace throughout all of the practice sessions, and I was surprised that these motherfuckers qualify like P17 and P18. But if you go ahead and watch my qualifying and prediction video, I kind of predicted that Oliver Behrman will go ahead and finish the points. It is true. He was there on merit, with or without the DNFs of the Ferrari and the McLaren, and the penalty of, what's his name? Kimi Antonelli. He would have been in the fucking points. So you gotta give me some credit for that. And the reason is because he has done it before. I think in Bahrain, he went from P20 to P10. So he is good at doing these type of recovery drives, managing the tires for extremely long stints. So Oliver Behrman, great racing driver, good qualifier as well, kind of similar to Isaac Hadjar. I think all of the rookies are performing extremely well except for Kimi Antonelli. We gotta go and talk about him, and we will talk about him in this video, and I'm gonna shit on him a little bit. But Oliver Behrman, phenomenal job, and so did Esteban Ocon. When these guys were qualifying almost towards the back of the grid, it caught me out by surprise because they had good pace. And I predicted that both of them motherfuckers will be finishing in the points, or at least fighting hard for the points. And with all the shenanigans that happened in the second half of the race, thank God for that, these guys got some points. And this is very interesting in the midfield battle because they score some points, Williams scores some points, the Racing Bulls scored a podium. It earlier, if you look at the qualifying results, it looked like the Racing Bulls, both of the Racing Bulls will be in points. One of them was, but that was on a podium. It looked difficult for Haas to score some points, although we knew that they kind of had the race pace. They had good racing car, and, right now all they need to do is focus on qualifying and, make the right balance in setup. And they got in their own way. Oliver Behrman said this. After the qualifying was a disaster, he said that we made some setup changes, one small setup change to his car from Q2 to Q3, or like between the two runs of Q3 or something like that, and he needs to go ahead and review whether that was the cause. It was the cause because he started from the pit lane, so they must have reverted it. And in park for me, you cannot make any change, but he made the change, so he had to go to the pit lane, and he finished P6. Phenomenal performance by Oliver Bearman. Great job by Esteban Ocon as well. Haas going home, double points finish, back from summer break, good performance. Up next, we move on to Williams. At this point, the thing about Carlos Sainz, or the career of Carlos Sainz, the racing performances of Carlos Sainz, is just funny. Earlier it used to be heartbreaking and disappointing and sad, but now it's like the misery is hitting Charles Leclerc levels. You know what I mean? Like, it's so sad and difficult that you just fucking laugh at it. And that's exactly what has happened with Carlos Sainz. He didn't deserve the 10-second penalty. I mean, if anything, it was kind of like a 50-50 racing incident. You could argue that Carlos could have taken a wider exit out of that corner. You could also argue that Liam Lawson didn't need to push Carlos Sainz that wide. Obviously, neither of them wanted to lose the position. They're racing drivers. It's completely normal. And then they touch. If anything, it was a racing incident, and I don't think even if someone deserved a penalty, it was Carlos Sainz. Now, obviously, they could argue that Liam Lawson had the inside line and he was ahead of the apex, like relatively speaking, and he may not have seen Carlos Sainz in his mirror because, he's looking towards the right. It was a right-hander. Maybe because of that reason, Carlos Sainz got the 10-second penalty. But yeah, that penalty was the end of him. He was running comfortably in the points, fighting with Liam Lawson for, I think it was the battle for P8 or whatever. But yeah, after that collision, he had to take a pit stop, and then he had the 10-second penalty, so he had to do another pit stop. Luckily, he did it within the safety car, but still a pit stop is a pit stop. He did not need to lose that extra bit of time. That kind of bit him in the ass, and that was basically his race done. Alexander Albon, on the other hand, his stock continues to rise after Carlos Sainz has joined the team. I think that was the whole purpose of getting Carlos Sainz in the team. It is working out wonderfully well for Alexander Albon because all he is doing is having phenomenal races compared to Carlos Sainz in that Williams. Started P15, made that mistake in qualifying. Not his mistake, but kind of like the team's mistake, and it was a bit of circumstantial. He was in the fast lane line, as the cars were coming out of their pits for a bit too long, and it kind of fucked the temperature in his tires. So when he actually went out for his, lap, it was horrible, and there was some traffic issues as well. So that was the thing that fucked his qualifying session. Otherwise, he would have qualified in top 10. But either way, P5, best he could have done based on the pace that they had. They were not the fastest on the track. But because it's Zandvoort, multiple safety cars, you have to time the pit stops right. It got chaotic. People DNF'd. P5, phenomenal job. We move on. Aston Martin. So first thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and talk a bit about Fernando Alonso's luck. He's got to take it. It's not that bad of a performance. You started P10, finished P8. Not that bad of a performance considering the pace you have. The midfield is tight, and yes, I know that if the pit stop timing would have been right, it's all woulda, coulda, shoulda at this point, right? Which doesn't really matter. But if you just want to say it for the sake of an argument, yes, he could have potentially finished P7, P6, something like that. Based on the chaos that has happened, maybe grab a P5 finish. But you have to be happy with P10 to P8 because things could have gotten much more worse. People got fucked over in this race. Be lucky. Be happy that you are not battling Liam Lawson and, had a crash with him, or with Kimi Antonelli had a crash with him. Just be happy that you didn't tangle with anyone considering the amount of incidents that were happening and the DRS trains that Fernando was stuck on. And it is what it is. It's this type of race. Remember in Hungaroring where Fernando Alonso caused a DRS train? Karma. In the words of Fernando Alonso himself, karma. But anyway, I'm not gloating. I'm just pointing it out, the ironies of life. Don't... people take jokes very seriously these days. Either way, Fernando Alonso P10 to P8, not bad. Obviously, as a racing driver, he would want to be better. Now, Lance Stroll, the greatest of all time, impressive performance, P19 to P7. When the qualifying happened, I told you that there are levels of this genius that we don't completely comprehend. When Lance Stroll deliberately took himself out in Q1, I said immediately, like, you know what, he's just giving these other guys a chance. And you know what, he was. Because as the race unfolded, all the other guys, like Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, and like, what's his name, Lando Norris, they just dropped off. They were nowhere to be found. Lance Stroll, on the other hand, he was just breezing past. P19 to P7, great performance. I think that's like driver of the day type of shit. Obviously, there were a lot of amazing recovery drives, especially from Oliver Bearman. Started from pit lane in P6, and then obviously Isaac Hadjar in terms of the standout rookie performance, where he got a podium. Because of that, Lance Stroll's phenomenal like recovery drive from P19 to P7 is getting like overlooked a little bit, but that's some legendary shit right there. I'm not gonna take any other answer. We move on. Mercedes AMG Petronas Formula 1 team. So Osama bin Russell and Osama bin Kimi Antonelli, we need to find a new nickname for Kimi Antonelli, because he is right now at this moment is the most overhyped rookie on the fucking grid. I can see it right now. You cannot say anything other than that. Like, what performance has he done so well? Look, okay, in Japan, he had the fastest lap. Look, I'm not saying Kimi is untalented. I'm just saying that, okay, he has shown spots of sunshine, but we need that consistency at this point. So in Japan, he had the fastest lap, pretty great performance. In Miami Sprint, he had the pole position, good performance there as well. In Canada, he made that overtaking move on Oscar Piastri to grab his first podium. Great performance. There have been moments. But buddy, look at Isaac Hadjar. Look at Oliver Bearman. Look at Gabriel Bortoleto. I mean, Gabriel Bortoleto is the late bloomer. He took a little bit of time to get into his groove. 2 points finishes so far. But yeah, like all of the other rookies, like, am I missing someone? But all of the other rookies are definitely performing well. And now Franco Colapinto is back on the rise as well. So if there is so much hype behind Kimi Antonelli, he needs to start delivering this shit right now. All of the other like simple common people stuff, like giving high school examinations and paying attention in classroom and academics and having girlfriends and relationships, wearing condoms and doing your homework, all that shit needs to stop. You need to focus completely on Formula 1. Why are you still in academics and studying in high school exams? That doesn't matter anymore. You are a race car driver in Formula 1. All you need to do is, spend time on the simulator and go to races. That's all you need to do, because you need to deliver right now. Things are not going well, and all of the penalties that he got, it's his fucking fault. The crash with Leclerc, I think 10 seconds is, it's not enough. He needed a drive-through or some shit like that. You don't do that. Like, he had zero chance of making that move happen. He had the inside line, yes, but in inside line, you travel less meters. That's the advantage, but you are also on lower speed. So you kept the foot in the inside line when trying to make the move on Charles Leclerc, who was on the outside line and he was breezing past, and you fucking drove into him. And you get 10 seconds for that. That's a goddamn disgrace. Give him a drive-through penalty, relegate him back of the grid, P19 at the flag or some shit. He needed that shit. So Kimi Antonelli, absolutely disgusting performance. You know what? In the first half of the race, he was actually pretty impressive, and I was clapping for him in that moment. I was very happy that he was slicing through the field, and for a moment it looked like he is going to challenge Charles Leclerc, like for real, like on track. There's going to be a battle, maybe even challenge Isaac Hadjar for P4. That's how it looked at a point. It was so good to watch. I'm like, Kimi is back. The 2 weeks of like the summer break helped him massively, 3 weeks technically. And he's going to go ahead and put on the best performance of the car. And also, Osama bin Russell's car was damaged. That's why he was, let by. And he was making good moves. Like, he was, like, putting in good lap times. But that move on Charles Leclerc, absolutely horrible. And then he sped in the pit lane. What the hell is wrong? Like, why are you making these type of mistakes, man? I mean, yeah, it's the stress and whatever. But at this point, it's been how many races? I think 15 races. Kimi Antonelli has completed 15 Formula 1 races, the same number of races as Isaac Hadjar, one number of race less than Oliver Bearman. And those motherfuckers, I mean, Oliver Bearman is a bad example because he has gotten a lot of grid penalties for doing dumb shit. But Gabriel Bortoleto, same number of races. But either way, you shouldn't be making this type of mistakes if you're the chosen prodigy. You know what I'm saying? So that needs to change a little bit. And right now, like, he is not living up to the hype. That's all I'm going to say. Now, speaking of George Russell, he's got a little bit unlucky. So the battle with Charles Leclerc, it was a bit 50-50. I mean, he defended well. Obviously, the memes are going to be there that, Russell on the radio said that he just turned into me and it was him. But it's kind of like 50-50. It's a racing incident. The stewards deemed it right. They didn't do much about it. Just let it happen. And there was some contact. There's a little bit of bodywork flying off of, out of both of the cars. And Charles Leclerc got better off George Russell because Russell's car got some serious damage which affected his performance. So that kind of began the compromisation of his race, which was kind of saved over time by the DNFs of both of the Ferraris because his teammate helped him indirectly. And then another McLaren's engine blew up, which is the same name of George Russell's team. So a lot of conspiracy theories are going on. And basically what George Russell happened with George Russell is that he did nothing and he had a P4. Started P5 or P6 was it? I mean, I wrote P5, but whatever. Started in the top 6 or top 5, finished P4, did really nothing much. If you think about it, if you genuinely think about it, he should have finished way ahead. He should have finished even better. But for whatever reason, he did nothing and eventually performed well. So great job by George Russell for having Lady Luck by his side. We move on. Racing Bulls. So the moment that we have all been waiting for, that Racing Bulls is going to be a better car than the actual Red Bull, the moment is finally here. The moment was a little bit there in Hungaroring because in Hungaroring, if you remember, the qualifying session was very exciting because both Liam Lawson and Isaac Hadjar was almost making similar times around Max Verstappen, and in some occasions Isaac Hadjar was ahead of Max Verstappen. So that was definitely like on the board, and in Zandvoort it kind of manifested itself. If you look at the race pace, Isaac Hadjar was quick. He was certainly not pushing as hard as he could. I know this. He was also under pressure from Leclerc, and for a little bit of time, he was also under pressure from, George Russell. So he had his own demons to battle. But at the same time, I don't think he was pushing hard enough. And in the hands of Max Verstappen, we all want to know how fast the Racing Bull can go. So big shout out to Isaac Hadjar for maximizing the performance. Before the race began, I was kind of predicting based on Isaac Hadjar's luck that he is not going to be even in the points. He's going to pick up some damage somewhere along the race, which happened to other drivers, but not him. So it seems that somehow he has managed to fix his luck. And now that bad luck has transferred to Liam Lawson because Liam Lawson did decent in qualifying, started P8, but his race was kind of just scruffy. This is the thing that Liam Lawson needs to take care of. Because in races where there are close battles, where you have to do a little bit of wheel banging, you have to, be more masculine or alpha, so to speak, in certain corners in order to, retain the position there and just be ballsy. You know what I mean? In those situations, he seems to make contact and initiate collisions, which is fucking his race. Even if it doesn't fuck his race, he picks up some damage, he picks up a penalty, and it just doesn't look good. It happened in 2024 with Fernando Alonso and a bunch of other drivers. It's happening again. So he needs to go ahead and take care of that. Liam Lawson definitely has the pace, but he's a lot rougher around the edges. The stability of Racing Bulls is kind of now showing it, because earlier he was the super sub and he had very little time to get used to the situation and the car in order to get the maximum performance out of it. But now with a little bit of stability, we are kind of seeing some cracks in his game. And the cracks in his game is that in close combat type of situations where everything is so tight, he tends to make contact with other people, whether it is while defending or attacking or whatever it is. There's a bit of wheel banging. So he needs to take care of that. Now, Isaac Hadjar got his shit together finally, luck-wise and whatnot. He was already quick during the qualifying sessions. That was sorted. Half the battle is already won, especially in 2025 from the qualifying day. Because 2025, most of the cars on the grid are tightly packed. The streets are narrow, the cars are wide. It's very difficult to overtake anyway, except for a few handful of tracks here and there. And now we are under the threat of losing those amazing tracks as well for street circuits. But either way, Isaac Hadjar did a phenomenal job at what is it called? Just making zero mistakes. There was plenty of opportunities to make mistakes. There were debris on the track. Like, he was under pressure from two good drivers. He absorbed all of that pressure. Ahead of him is Max Verstappen. I mean, Max was kind of fast, and he maintained the distance. Charles Leclerc was constantly in the DRS of Isaac. Somehow he defended it, and I'm very excited what he can do in Monza if you take away all of the downforce from the Racing Bull. I think it's one hell of a car. So I still believe that it's a matter of time before the performance of Max Verstappen dips down decisively on track from one or both of the Racing Bull drivers. It almost happened in Hungaroring in qualifying. It almost happened in Zandvoort in the race. But in reality, in Zandvoort, if there was some advantage to Isaac in the pit stops or whatever, and he momentarily or somehow got ahead of Max Verstappen, and Max would have genuinely struggled to overtake Isaac, is what I'm trying to say. It's not going to be easy for Max Verstappen to make overtaking moves on anybody because he has a shit car. So right now we are at a point in which the Racing Bull officially have a better car. And it's a matter of time before Isaac Hadjar. I have very high hopes on him. He's the rookie that deserves all of the hype. He will extract the performance, and I think he's the guy to beat Max Verstappen, if anyone, from the Red Bull family at least. We move on. Verstappen.com Racing. Not anymore. They're Red Bull now because Yuki Tsunoda scored some fucking points. Let's talk about it. Now, the thing about Yuki Tsunoda is that very unimpressive performance. Not unimpressive performance, but I'm not really interested on him anymore. I'm not going to emotionally invest that much in him. I did it early on, and it didn't pay off in terms of reward because he's just so shit around the track, and now his contract with Red Bull is ending, and nobody's going to hire him. His resume is not that impressive. He has spent multiple years in Formula 1. There's not a highlight reel of Yuki Tsunoda, is all I'm trying to say. But his performance in the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix, if you look at it, not that good. Because both of the Ferraris DNF'd. Kimi Antonelli got a penalty. Obviously, it's not... I'm not saying that to say that Yuki Tsunoda got all the points through luck, but majorly it is through luck. 3 cars DNF'd straight up. Then Kimi Antonelli fucked up and got a 15-second penalty. So obviously, he was comfortably outside of the points if you think about it. He was P13 or P14 or some shit. So many people DNF'd and got penalties that he was forced and he was pushed into the points, kind of like Esteban Ocon. That's what happened to him as well. But Yuki Tsunoda, Right place at the right time, stayed away of the mistakes. And one thing that was very disgraceful about Yuki's performance in the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix is that he failed to overtake Oliver Bearman, a rookie driving the Haas car, on used hard tires while he was on like a lot fresher tires. I think it was mediums. It was pathetic to see, and it's not like Oliver Bearman was defending dirty. I think while exiting turn 3 or turn 1, Yuki sent it around the outside, but he was not committed enough. And Oliver Bearman left enough gap for a car to be there. If he just showed some fucking balls and committed the move, he would have made it work. But, they're right to fire you, my friend. They're right to fire you. But let's talk about Max Verstappen right now. There's not much to say about Max Verstappen, which is weird because Max Verstappen is usually the most happening guy up and down the grid. He's the guy that entertains us around the race. There's not much to say about him. So initially, he gets ahead of Lando Norris, and that was the moment I knew that Oscar Piastri is going to win this race. Oscar Piastri is very good at managing race at the front, even if it's a chaotic race. So he did manage it well. And we will talk about Oscar Piastri when we'll talk about it. But Lando Norris basically had only chance. So he ruined the chances of Lando Norris of securing another win at Dutch Grand Prix. Great job by Max Verstappen. Defended the position for as long as he could. And then he was, doing his own lonely race, and eventually Lando Norris DNF'd. So instead of P3, he was P2. So that's all she wrote. The big problem right now is that in one of the future Grand Prix, it is going to be evident. I think multiple Grand Prix in the remaining 9 races left. I think in multiple of those Grand Prix, Max Verstappen is going to finish behind one or both of the racing bulls. I think it's going to happen at least twice. So we'll see how that pans out and how the reaction of the general Formula One community across the world is like. We move on. McLaren. So Oscar Piastri's first Grand Slam. Congratulations to Oscar Piastri. I predicted earlier, like before the season even began, that Piastri will win his world title. First ever world title in 2026. I think he's going to win it this year. I think that's been pretty evident based on how he has been driving. And also, he's going to win the next year, so that prediction still stands. The thing is, the way he managed the race, the way he timed the launch outside of the safety car, because each time there was a safety car, there was an opportunity for Lando Norris to be close. You are never going to be as close as to the car ahead, except for in the safety car situations. You see how Max Verstappen overtakes, during the safety car situations. He's almost touching the back of the car. He maintains just enough distance. He is half a meter behind the car ahead at the line, so that as soon as he crosses, he can immediately make that overtake. That's what Max Verstappen does. And Lando Norris failed to do that multiple times. He had multiple opportunities. Now, obviously, the engine failure is not under his control, but he was never really posing a threat on Oscar Piastri. Because if you remember, when Oscar Piastri was attacking Lando Norris in Austria, and when Oscar Piastri was attacking Lando Norris in Hungaroring, shit was going down. And when Oscar Piastri overtook Lando Norris in Belgium, shit was going down. He was closing the distance, he was finding new racing lines around the track, he was doing different type of approaches, things were happening. He locked up a couple of times, but there was nothing like that with Lando. And trust me, even without the DNF, it wouldn't have happened. That moment was not coming, because Oscar Piastri was just keeping Lando Norris at an arm's length. 1.1, 1.2. He had DRS from Oscar for 1 or 2 laps in total. He was behind him the whole time. He never really had DRS. He had DRS, then he lost it. It is what it is. So Oscar Piastri. So one of the key things is that Lando Norris has only one opportunity to beat him, and that's this qualifying session. Because if Oscar is ahead of you, Lando doesn't even get close, let alone pose a threat or mount a challenge. That's that. So the championship is sealed. Congratulations to Oscar Piastri for winning his first ever world championship. Lando Norris got a little bit unlucky. lost 18 points this race. So if he loses the championship around these points, then, we can attribute it to this one. There's nothing really much to say about this title fight. There's no animosity between these guys. There's no drama, and it is what it is. And in terms of racing, nothing much happened as well. So that's that. Now, overall, about the race, the first half of the race, the first 20 laps of the race was fucking boring. We never got the rain that we were promised, but fortunately incidents happened. People got into crashes, and things were happening, and investigations were brewing. So that was that, and the race was eventually interesting overall if you look at it. So I guess we will see how Monza pans out. We have to make the prediction for Monza. Oscar Piastri W, because it's a driver's circuit. But Lando Norris is faster over there as well. I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to go back. Oscar Piastri W. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.